Alright, so today I want to bring you along for an Easter egg hunt, but instead of hunting for Easter eggs, I'm actually going to hunt for snake eggs. I breed ball pythons here in my reptile room. I'm actually breeding 18 females this year, and I'm right at the very beginning of the egg laying season. As a matter of fact, I'm kind of surprised that I haven't seen any eggs yet. I actually started pairing up on October 15th. That's the date that I pair every single year. As a matter of fact, last season, I actually started getting my first eggs in the middle of March. And here tomorrow is April 1st, April Fool's Day, and I still don't have any snake eggs. And I pretty much get to this point in the year and I go through all my females and I check them twice a day, because if I find some eggs, I definitely want to set them up in the incubator as quick as possible. As a matter of fact, if you actually leave the eggs in with the female for a little bit too long, they really get stuck together. And I actually like to separate the eggs, kind of pull them apart and separate each individual eggs when I set them up in the incubator. That way, if I get one that goes bad, it doesn't kind of spoil the whole clump of eggs. And snake eggs are kind of interesting. They lay them in this big, huge, kind of a big pile of eggs all stuck together. And the longer you let them sit together, the more they get stuck together. And they get to the point where it's almost impossible to actually separate the eggs. If you miss them for a couple days and don't catch them and try to go back and try to separate them, you run a risk of actually ripping those eggs, tearing them apart. And you know, if you actually miss them for a couple days, I would highly recommend that you just leave them together, find a bigger container and put them all in the incubator in one big pile instead of separating them, because you definitely don't want to take the risk of actually ripping the eggs when you're separating them. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to kind of go through my females. I actually have 18 females, and we'll just kind of peek in each tub and see if we have any snake eggs. Alright, so I'm actually going to start over here. As a matter of fact, most of my female ball pythons I keep over here in this rack, and I don't breed all of them every year. I kind of look at the body condition before I start, so not all of them are actually bred, but I'll kind of show you real quick. We might actually see some snake eggs, and if we do, I'll actually have to set them up in the incubator, which will be a whole nother video because it takes a while to actually set up the snake eggs. And today I just kind of want to go through all of them. This is actually my Pastel Calico female, and look at how big she is. She is ready to blow, and I thought for sure this girl was gonna lay first, but she shed out just about a week ago, so I'm thinking she still has a few more weeks. And usually what I do is I don't look at the sheds. That, you know, a lot of people, you know, kind of mark the pre-lay sheds and all that, and some people look at the follicles. I kind of look, mainly just look at the calendar, and you know, I kind of pair them up on a certain day every year, and kind of expect my eggs coming, you know, about the middle of March usually. And let's take a look at this one. This is my pinstripe. She is definitely gonna lay for sure. Look at how big and beefy she is. And this girl hasn't eaten in a really long time. And then once she lays eggs, she is super skinny. You wouldn't believe how skinny they get after they lay eggs, because they're fasting for a really long time. They usually don't eat when they're developing eggs, especially in the later part of the season when they're really getting really big eggs. And I'm thinking that she just doesn't really have enough room inside of her body to actually fit, you know, a rodent in there with all the eggs. I think that's one of the reasons they go off of food. But after they lay eggs, sometimes it can be really tricky getting them back onto food. And usually what I do is, as soon as they lay eggs, I'll go through and I'll change out all the substrate and kind of, you know, sometimes some people actually kind of give the snake a bath too, to kind of clean up all the smell so they don't think they're actually still in the breeding mode. That's probably the biggest challenge, is trying to get them kind of out of breeding mode and back onto food right after they lay eggs. So I actually mark all my tubs if I'm breeding a snake, and even if I'm expecting eggs or not, I'll put a little, I actually use these little magnetic strips. It's like a magnetic tape, and then I print it out with my label maker and just stick it right on the tub. And I know exactly which ones to look at because they are marked as breeding. This is actually my Pastel Pinstripe female. This is a really super big lemon blast. Look at how big she is. She is, you know, a big snake like this, she could probably lay, I'd say, you know, some of these really big ones down here in the bottom, they could probably lay 10 or 12 eggs, no problem. As a matter of fact, I've heard of people having really big ball pythons laying about 15 or 16 eggs. I think that's the most I've ever seen. Here is a het caramel albino, and this girl is kind of interesting. She's been wrapping around her water bowl for like a week and a half. It's kind of interesting. And usually what happens is, especially with females, what they do is they start out on the heat and back in the back of the tub. And I have like a heat strip on the very bottom in the back, and they sit on that while they're developing eggs. And then right before they lay eggs, they usually come up and do this bowl wrapping. That's a really good sign. And you can definitely tell this is one of my biggest females. She is a monster. I'd say, you know, she's probably close to 5,000 grams. She's really big. And if she lays eggs, I'd say, you know, I think last year I got like 13 or 14 eggs from a girl like this. She can lay a lot of eggs. And I'm actually breeding my, I actually have a scaleless head male that's 50% het caramel albino. This girl is 100% het caramel albino, hoping for some caramel albino scaleless heads, which would be a world's first. I actually have 2 of these snakes that are het caramel albino. I'm just kind of playing around this year with the caramel albino. I wanted to prove it out on both of these, and I wanted to get some scaleless heads into a caramel albino. And usually I'd say I probably won't do this project again with the caramel albino, shooting for the visual scaleless heads. It's kind of a one-time shot this year. But look at this girl, she is really big. And both these girls, you know, between both of these, I could potentially get like, I'd say maybe, you know, probably 30 eggs if they both laid 15, which would be pretty incredible. And even if I don't hit the visuals in the caramel albinos, I'll have a lot of normals, 50% het caramels, which sell really good because you can price them as normals. A lot of people like the really inexpensive ball pythons. So I have to grab my ladder and pull it out to get to some of these top tubs because they're so far up here. It just helps a lot to actually come up on a step stool to actually see some of these. This is actually my Pastel Spider Desert Ghost female, and I'm pretty sure this girl is gonna lay. She's a really beautiful snake. She's a visual Desert Ghost, has the pastel in there that makes her really yellow, and has the spider, which gives her this really crazy pattern, really awesome. And I actually paired her up last year, and she actually didn't breed. She's got some really good size to her. She's a really, you know, I'd say a girl like this could probably lay, I don't know, maybe 8 or 9 eggs. She's from 2016, so she's actually 4 years old. And let's see, I'm breeding this one. This is my normal female number 1. I'm not sure if this girl's gonna lay or not. She looks like she's kind of on the edge if she's gonna lay or not. And as a matter of fact, I'm breeding my my bamboo lesser to this one. So if she actually does lay eggs, half the offspring will be bamboo, half will be lesser. But I don't know, she actually laid eggs last year, and she was a lot bigger than this. And this far in the game, I don't know if she's actually, I don't think she's gonna lay eggs. But you know, she's off of food. You never know with some of these snakes. Sometimes they can kind of build late and then kind of fool you laying eggs late in the season. Here's another lemon blast that I'm breeding. This one, look at how big and beefy this girl is. Look at that. She's like ready to blow. You can definitely tell in this one she is gonna lay some eggs. And this one, I believe I paired my bamboo calico to this one. So I'm shooting for some bamboo calico. I'm really shooting for some bamboo calico with the pastel in there. That was one of my favorite combos. If you add pinstripe, it almost gives the offspring kind of a metallic looking color when you breed the bamboo in with a pinstripe. Makes for a really awesome combo. That is a really big girl. And this one, she could lay any day now. She is really super big. And this girl hasn't been eating hardly at all. She actually ate a couple mid-February, so it's been like a month and a half since she ate, and she is really huge. So actually I have another one way up here on top. This is my normal female number 3. My light almost doesn't reach up here. She's way up on the top. And this one, I'm not sure about this one. She looks like she might lay some eggs. And some of these, I'm not 100% sure if they're gonna lay or not. She's got some pretty good body condition, but I'm thinking she might lay. She's actually just eating just a couple weeks ago. So some of these, it's kind of hard. I've actually stopped pairing up my snakes. So it's, you know, it's either they're gonna lay or they're not gonna lay. And that one I'm actually breeding to my bamboo lesser. I'm breeding the bamboo lesser to a few females, hoping for some bamboos and some lessers. And look at this big girl. This is my big female pied, and she was just eating like crazy, just pounding down the rats. And she finally stopped, and I'm not sure if she's gonna lay or not. She's not looking like she's gonna explode from, you know, the building of eggs. If she has some eggs in there, I'm thinking they're a little bit smaller, but I'm actually hoping, I'm actually breeding my visual fire pied to this girl, hoping to get some more fire pieds, which is a really awesome combo. And I'll get some pieds too as well. So that one I'm actually breeding. And then let's see, I have 3 over here. And I kind of wanted to show you some of these over here. Some of these are kind of a bust. This pastel, I think this pastel might actually lay. Look at how big she is. She's nice and big and beefy. And I think this one's definitely gonna lay. Really beautiful pastel. And you can definitely tell in this case, she kind of browned out a little for pastel. Usually pastels are bright yellow when they're smaller, and then they kind of fade out as they get bigger. And you can definitely tell she's got kind of a crazy pattern up in here, and then some kind of alien heads down here. Usually the pastel kind of breaks up the pattern as well. And then on this one, this is a bust here. This is my albino het pied. I actually paired her up with my albino pied, hoping for some albino het pieds, but I don't think she's gonna go. She is really super skinny and small. She's been a really picky eater. As soon as I paired her up, she pretty much went off of food right away when I paired her up, and I doubt this girl's gonna lay. But I keep checking the tubs just to make sure. You know, I kind of peek in on all my females twice a day. And usually what I do is I just open up the tub and, you know, kind of spot clean if I have to. And then just kind of make sure that they have clean water and that they have enough humidity in the tubs and everything, and check the eggs pretty much twice a day on all these. And it kind of gives me an idea how all these snakes are doing, just kind of checking on them twice a day, because I could definitely tell I need to change some water, do a little spot cleaning, and I can definitely tell, you know, some of the substrate's drying out. As a matter of fact, I need to go through this whole rack and change all the substrate in all these tubs. I'll probably do that here in the next day or two. So I have a few females over here. Actually, I have 4 females in this rack that are the first time breeders. Usually what I do is I like to keep my adult females over in this ARS 7030 rack up on top. And then on the bottom is the ARS 8018. I keep that for my huge females that are like 5,000 grams, the really big ones. I'd say normally you can keep a ball python in an ARS 7030 tub like the ones over here. But this is actually an ARS 5040. It's considered a grow out rack. And I use it usually for the first year or 2 breeding females, and then they quickly outgrow these. It's not really a long-term situation. And take a look at this one. This one I wasn't sure if it was going to go. This is actually a clown. I'm breeding this one to my banana enchi clown, and she actually looks like she might be building some eggs. You can kind of tell she's kind of on her side a little bit, like she's kind of repositioning. She actually laid the very first time last year. I actually bred my albino pied to this clown, and I got triple hets, albino pied clowns, which is a really exciting project. And I actually have another clown up here. This is my lesser clown. I think this one's gonna go too. This one I actually bred my banana enchi clown to this one as well. And I'm kind of limited on my lights right at the end of my extension cord. I need to get another extension cord, but look at how beautiful this clown is. It's kind of interesting with the lesser clown. She was really bright bright and contrasty when she was small, and then as she aged, she kind of faded out a little. But you can definitely tell she is big enough to where I'm pretty sure this girl is building some eggs. And this is kind of what I do every day. I usually don't spend that much time. Usually I grab 2 tubs at a time with both hands, and I just open them about halfway and peek in and see if there's any eggs, and then I move to the next one. Here's another one that I've been breeding for a couple years, and she is really super picky when it comes to food. And I don't know what she's doing in her water bowl. I don't know how long a ball python can hold their breath. What are you doing, you crazy snake? And this one has always been feisty. She's always snapping at me for some reason. I don't know what's wrong with her. For some reason, this is the only ball python in my whole collection that just does not like to be around people. And she looks like maybe she could be developing some eggs. She's looking like she has some really good body condition for being off food for a while, but she doesn't look like she's going to lay anytime soon. But I'm hoping this one actually lays some eggs. This is actually a Pastel Spider, possible yellow belly, and possible het pied. I'm actually breeding my fire pied to this one, hoping to prove out that she is actually het pied if I can actually get her to lay some eggs. She's actually from 2015, 5 years old, and still a pretty small snake. As a matter of fact, I have 2-year-olds that are as big as this girl. And look, she's kind of giving me the evil eye. If I keep looking at her, she'll like strike at the lens on the camera. She's just really feisty, and she only eats live rats, because when I open up the tub and I start messing with her, she gets really super defensive. It's kind of crazy. That one has just got some issues, and I actually tried to tame her down, and she just kept biting me like crazy. I just kind of gave up, and I use her as a breeder. So here's the last one I wanted to show you as far as females. This is a really exciting project. This is my pinstripe pied. This is the first year I'm breeding her. She is really small too. She's really picky. She's 4 years old, and for a first-time breeder, I think she might have some eggs in there. She's got some pretty good body condition. Hopefully she'll lay a small clutch. Usually with a small snake like this, I'd say she could probably lay maybe 6 or 7 eggs for a first-time breeder. And I'm actually, this one I'm actually breeding back to my fire pied. So I'll actually get pinstripe pieds, fire pieds, and pinstripe fire pieds, and also get some just regular pieds too. And I kind of want to show you one last snake here. This is my banana inchy clown. This is the one I'm breeding to both of my other clowns. Look at how beautiful this guy is. He is so awesome. And this is my big investment for the year. Usually I try to have one really big investment every year, and I'm kind of going for, you know, since I have all my tubs filled, I'm kind of going for kind of more high-end snakes instead of, you know, buying a whole bunch of kind of lower end, you know, kind of like you're doing at the beginning, kind of just filling up your tubs. And I've gotten to the point where I sell a bunch of snakes and kind of raise enough money to invest in a really high-end project. And this is this is definitely the most expensive snake that I've ever bought in my whole entire collection. Really awesome ball python. All right, so it is time for the question of the day. And John Lawrence asks, I just started breeding rats and I have 2 female rats in separate tubs with babies. Is it okay to combine the females and the babies all in one larger tub? And that is a very good question. I'd say with rats, you have to be really careful that you don't trigger aggression, especially with a female with babies. And I would say probably if you're actually combining 2 females and they both have babies, you'll probably be okay. As a matter of fact, it's an advantage because, you know, one can actually nurse more than just her litter, kind of spreads it out a little bit. I really like to actually keep more than 1 female per tub, especially if they're nursing females. Some of them, it really depends on the female. Sometimes they can have, you know, a limited amount of milk, and sometimes you get females that don't have really healthy looking babies. And if you have multiple females in the same tub, it can really be an advantage. Although if you actually have a female with babies, they can be extremely aggressive in certain circumstances. Probably the worst fighting I've ever seen is I actually had a female with babies and I put an unfamiliar male in with that female, and they were fighting so bad I was like shaking the whole rack, and I actually had to move that male out pretty quick. And I'd say that's probably the #1 cause of fighting for females with babies. The other thing is, if you actually have a female with babies and you take all the babies away from her, and then at the same time you add another rat to that tub, you can have some severe fighting. It seems like the female kind of blames the new rat for the loss of her babies. You kind of have to think like a rat when you're kind of, you know, mixing and matching and moving them around from tub to tub. And kind of the ideal thing is if you're actually taking the offspring from a female, especially if they're not like a wean size, if they're like a little bit smaller, I always find it's a good idea to keep a couple baby rats in with the mom. It really helps to reduce the aggression. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.